Commissioner, I want to ask you about Jobstown. I want your reaction, please, to a concern, a worry that there was a discrepancy in some of the evidence given by a number of your officers in the recent court case. You'll be aware that it has been a matter of wide public commentary, including from An Taoiseach. I'd like your reaction to that, please. I'd like to know, have you spoken to the officers in question? I'd like to know, have you spoken to the Taoiseach on this matter? And I'd like to know what form the review is taking in respect of these particular concerns.
Okay, obviously, Chair, I'm very aware of the trial that took place recently before the courts. As with all of these cases, all of the parties involved are entitled to, and indeed need to be afforded, due process, natural justice and fair procedure. So beyond that, I don't want to talk about the court case or the process. What I will say is that Assistant Commissioner Barry O'Brien was appointed to conduct a review from a lessons learned perspective of the circumstances surrounding the events that unfolded in Tallaght. I'm very conscious also that I am very much constrained and precluded in what I can say because a number of matters remain before the courts, and I certainly don't want to say anything that would in any way prejudice or jeopardise anything that is ongoing at the moment. But of course, if anybody has concerns in relation to anything that transpired arising from the protest or any other matters, GSOC is available, or indeed, Deputy, sorry if I may, or any Garda station, and of course their complaints will be treated seriously.
We take that as read as citizens of this state. So just so as I'm clear, Barry O'Brien then is reviewing lessons learned from an operational policing perspective in terms of how the operation was handled in Jobstown on the day in question. Is that correct?
He's reviewing the circumstances from a lessons learned perspective.
That is on the day lessons learned?
No, the circumstances of the entire affair.
Okay. Hold on, excuse me, does that include... and I'm not asking you to review a court case. That's not any of our business here. That's done and dusted. I'm asking what policing action is being taken by you as Commissioner in respect of the suggestion, the allegation even, that there was a deliberate, perhaps, ruse by members of your force to give incorrect evidence or an incorrect account in a court. Is that being reviewed? How is that being handled?
Chair, as I said, Assistant Commissioner Barry O'Brien has been appointed to conduct a review from a lessons learned perspective. I'm very conscious of the independence of the executive arms of the state, and particularly the law officers and the court system, and I don't think that I can comment any further on anything that happened before the courts or any matters that remain before the court or remain, remain in a judicial process.
I am not inviting you to do anything of the sort. It would be entirely and wholly inappropriate. I am not asking you that. What I am asking you is, from a review point of view, I think we can agree it would be a most serious matter if it transpired that somebody, anybody, much less an officer of the law, had given incorrect evidence to a court. All the more serious if that had been done in a coordinated way. I think we can agree that that would be a most serious matter. I'm not asking you to adjudicate as to whether or not that happened. That's not. What I'm asking you is what you have done as Commissioner, given that this is now the suggestion and the concern in the public domain, reiterated by An Taoiseach. I want to know, is Mr O'Brien actually investigating that matter? Is he reviewing that matter? Is he speaking to those officers? Have you spoken to those officers? Where is that in the review of events around Jobstown?
Well, Deputy, at fear of repeating myself, Assistant Commissioner O'Brien has been appointed to conduct a review of the entire matter from a lessons learned perspective.
Including the matter I've raised?
And he will conclude his review.
Including the matter I have raised?
Deputy, the court system, I'm sure you will appreciate, is completely independent.
With the court system. You're not answering my question. You're deliberately not answering this question. So it's either A, that Barry O'Brien is reviewing everything, including the matter of public concern, which is a grave matter around potential perjury or misleading of court. It couldn't be more serious. Or this man is not investigating this matter and is simply looking at the operational and the background to the operational matters on the day. I simply want to know which
Sure,
it is.
if I could say, perjury is obviously a very serious matter. It is also a criminal offence. And if there is anybody who has a suspicion or concern that a member of Garda Síochána has committed a criminal offence,
and it's unacceptable.
there is a mechanism there, as I say, either through the Garda Síochána Ombudsman Commission.
Is Barry O'Brien, or is he not, examining the issue, the allegation, the worry, the public concern that officers of Garda Síochána gave misleading or false evidence to a court of law? Yes or no?
Well, Deputy, Chair, all I can say again is what I have just said. And obviously what I'm saying is that if anybody has a suspicion that a member of Garda Síochána has engaged...
That's most disrespectful to me and to this committee.
Just asking one question.
To deliberately not answer the question.
I've just one second because you're long over the time. Commissioner, you've said he's examining, from a lessons learned point of view, the operation. Does it extend beyond that Saturday evening, the time of his review? Does it stop on the Saturday evening, or does it continue?
No,
the operation didn't...
What I said is that he is reviewing the entirety of the matter from a lessons learned perspective.
And extending beyond, it's not just what physically happened in Jobstown, it's subsequent to related.
If there are issues arising from what happened at Jobstown...
I want her to say that.
Including the very serious suggestion of the disposition of some of your officers in a court of law.
Okay.
Is he examining that piece of it?
Perhaps if I take it out of the court of law, Chair, and perhaps this is an easier way to answer the question, because I do not want to prejudice anything that is before the court. So if I take, for example, us appearing as witnesses here at the Public Accounts Committee, obviously, and I'm not suggesting that I want to separate the two issues entirely, but obviously there are witnesses who appear before, for example, committees or courts, and different witnesses have different accounts of matters. Some people have direct evidence account of matters, and some have hearsay account of matters. And it's important that, let it be the court or let it be the Public Accounts Committee or any other committee, hears all of the evidence in a fair and balanced way. And I am not going to second guess here the conduct of the court. What I am saying is that from Garda Síochána's perspective, bringing it back into the Jobstown issue, and as I say, I think it is important because we, as members of Garda Síochána, are always taught and told professionally to treat witnesses in a fair and reasonable manner, to afford them natural justice and fair procedure. And also to bear in mind that different witnesses will have different accounts of events. And that doesn't mean that one witness is right and one witness is wrong. So that's why we're always taught to hear things in a fair and balanced manner.
So is Barry O'Brien investigating the matter that I've put to you, yes or no?
What I'm saying, Deputy, is when the totality of the matters before the court are concluded, obviously that will then feed in to the review. But the totality of the matters that are before the court are not concluded. So Assistant Commissioner...
I take that as a no.
Assistant Commissioner O'Brien has been appointed to review the circumstances leading from the whole situation in Jobstown. When the totality of the matters before the courts are concluded, obviously that will be there. It will be quite inappropriate at this point for Assistant Commissioner O'Brien to interfere with matters which are before the courts. However, his process will continue.
I tell you, Commissioner, if I can just finish.
Sorry, with respect, I just want to make a point, because it's from my perspective, and I'm a member of this committee, the same as Deputy McDonald, and we're entitled to answers to simple questions that are put. And I concur that it is unacceptable if the Commissioner is allowed to filibuster and not answer straight questions. You have a responsibility as Coherent to make sure we get answers.
Now exactly, I'm taking over and concluding this issue because the time allocated to the member is well beyond. The review, if I understand it as chairperson, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Mr O'Brien is conducting a review of the events that happened in Jobstown and that arising from the events at Jobstown. There are matters still before the court, and until the matters before the court are completed, he will not be able to complete his review of this process.
Yes, Chair, you're correct. And as I say, but we are anxious that we learn from the lessons learned perspective any issues, let it be from public safety or any other issues that arise from the whole Jobstown situation.
Okay.
Exactly the kind of remark that damages public confidence in the organisation that you head. Just for the record.
But Chair, as
precisely the kind of filibustering and evasion that damages
I'm trying to condense it to the one. We have a net sentence that clarifies. It might have taken 10 minutes to get there, but the net sentence is you give it. The operation in Jobstown is being examined. The events leading from that are being examined. That would include court proceedings which are not yet completed. That aspect can't be dealt with until the court proceedings are completed. And at that, he'll be able to complete a report on the entirety from the beginning of the Jobstown affair to the end of the court process.
Yes, Chair.
And so he will be examining the court process at the end of the court process.
Not the court process, Chair.
Okay.
No, not the court process,
okay.
Because he would have no authority in which to examine. The courts are an independent institution.
Well, lessons to be learned in relation to the prosecution.
But I might also say that because picking up on Deputy McDonald's point in terms of public confidence in Garda Síochána, the purpose of the Garda Síochána Ombudsman Commission being established was that if any member or any person has a concern in relation to any activity on behalf of a member of Garda Síochána, the Ombudsman Commission is the independent body which can receive complaints about the conduct of any member of Garda Síochána, and that's from public confidence point of view.
But just to clarify for the public, so the public, we might get it, but the public mightn't get it, that is, if there's an allegation of wrongdoing by a member of the Garda Síochána as the Garda Síochána Ombudsman, does that investigate? Are you aware of any, have you been notified by the Garda Síochána Ombudsman of any investigation being conducted arising from the Jobstown affair by the Ombudsman?
Not at this point, Chair.
Not at this point?
No.
And in event, if there is alleged wrongdoing by members of the Garda Síochána in Jobstown or subsequent to Jobstown, it will be a matter for the Garda Síochána Ombudsman to do the investigation rather than you.
That's correct, Chair. And if I can say, we take all matters in relation to any allegations of wrongdoing against any member of Garda Síochána with the utmost seriousness.
I'm just trying to bring clarity to where it's at.